Hi and welcome to my April Epiphany Experts video on page load times. So this resource is aimed to be a bit of a primer to give you some knowledge to talk about the subject of page load times being added as a Google variable within its mix. So originally back in 2009, Matt Cutts first mentioned page load time would be a big thing in 2010 for SEO and would be added as a ranking factor. In December, Google added the ability to see your page load time within Google Webmaster Central's tool. And now in April 2009, Google have announced a soft launch of page load speed as a ranking factor, which they're heavily monitoring. So by soft launch, I mean that it's currently only affecting English language searches on google.com, and it's said to only affect about 1% of searches. So there's obviously kind of data issues and all this kind of stuff. So they're heavily monitoring it, and they'll tweak things as time goes by to find the sweet spots. So why is Google using page load speed as a ranking factor? Why is page load speed important? Well, speed's high on Google's agenda in particular, with this latest impending rollout of Caffeine, which is about a month and a half away. Google looking to index and increase the speed in which it returns results. Faster sites have also been shown in various business studies to improve ROI and user experience. So speed is an important factor from a user experience point of view. Google themselves have carried out studies to show if they slow down the rate in which their results are returned, the number of repeat searches drops heavily. Faster sites are also going to work better on mobile applications. So if a lot of the techniques we're going to use to speed up a site's performance is going to have benefits on these mobile applications that have got limited bandwidth and the limited technology they can use. And faster sites from a search engine point of view are also going to be quicker to crawl. So if we slim down the amount of resource needed to actually gather the particular page, it's going to make them faster to crawl, so Google's going to be able to get at more of the internet. So how is Google measuring page load time at the moment? They're using two data points at the minute. They're using data taken from Googlebot, so as Googlebot goes out and indexes your pages, it's recording the amount of time it took to gather the data and to get the data returned back to it. It's also using the Google toolbar, specifically if you've got the PageRank green bar enabled. So this gives a broader perspective of users, admittedly limited to people who've got the Google toolbar, but it kind of takes out geographic location as an issue, as it can be nominalized, and also takes out browsers and that sort of stuff in particular as an issue. So what is the effect of all this, and what sort of sites is it like to affect? So obviously the key effect is going to be if your pages load beyond a particular speed, it's going to have a negative effect on your rankings. So this is going to affect a certain type of sites. So sites that are heavily flash-based, flash sites are notorious for having pretty crap load times. Sites that are on kind of poor hosting platforms, so if your site's on a large shared hosting platform, it's likely to have performance issues. Sites that are under-spec'd, or the servers they sit on are under-spec'd, so if your site's resource heavy and it's sat on a server that can't cope, it's likely to have issues. Sites that contain a lot of assets, so if your site's fragmented into a lot of pieces, so you've got your core HTML, it has to go off and grab all these different external files, to grab all these different images, widgets, iframes, adverts, banners that are being loaded dynamically from other sources, that kind of stuff. It's all going to have a slowing down effect on your page load time. And one thing of interest in particular is that if you run Google's own tool on your site, it will return various things about your page load times. One of the ones in particular that crops up very often is Google Analytics is taking so long to load, and that should be kind of optimized. So people are already starting to ditch Google Analytics and similar things to kind of try and increase page load times, or putting that out as a suggestion. So the current situation is obviously leaving a lot of unanswered questions. So at the moment, Google are given no insight into what slow means. They're given no cap or no value that if your site's below a certain speed, it's going to have a negative effect. It's very likely that at the moment it's what we consider very slow. So sites that take 10 seconds or over to load are going to be affected. This of course will be tweaked over time and heavily monitored until they can find this sweet spot of where the best kind of benefit from including this as a ranking factor kind of happens. They're never going to be a bonus for being fast. It's more that it's slow is going to be a negative factor. You're not going to get, there's going to be a cap of amount of effort that's worth putting into speeding sites up before, where there's no benefit. There's also been no clarification as to when the clock stops. So, is Googlebot going out there and having to grab all the different assets to actually make a kind of judgment on how long it's taken to grab the page in particular? When does I've made an assumption as the Google toolbar starting from when you first request the site and ending when it loads the PageRank into the bar, which should potentially be the end of the process. But there's been no clarification on where the start and stop points are for recording time. And one thing that's important to remember is, of course, that page speed is only one of over 200 factors that are taken into consideration. So Google themselves have said that it is going to be included, but it's it's a very small part of the overall algorithm. More important things such as relevance, backlinks, topical content, all this kind of stuff are a lot more important. But it is something that we need to look at specifically on pages that load slowly and sites that are underperforming regarding kind of speed. So conclusions. Page speed is very likely here to stay, pretty much guaranteed to be honest. As to when they'll roll it out in entirety depends on whether they can find the sweet spot and what monitoring they do. I've closed this video off by including a slide with various resources in it for further reading. There's Matt Cutz's post on there, there's a Search Engine Watch post that's got a lot more detail about the recent studies that were carried out regarding kind of speed and its effect on websites. There's also the two Google Web Assistant Central posts, one that's heavily kind of the focus of this particular video, and the other that talks about the actual information that's available via Google Web Assistant Central to show your page speed. But the one important thing to remember at the moment is that we're unaffected. It's only affected about 1% of searches on .com. It's not been rolled out to everybody, but it will. Okay, I hope you enjoy. Thanks very much.